Welcome back. To Coins Tool today, we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating and underrated coins in American coinage history, the 1966 Roosevelt 1 dime. This little 10-cent piece may look ordinary at first glance, but there's a lot more to this coin than meets the eye. From its historical background to its potential W hunters to worth in the current coin market, this is a must-watch for anyone who loves numismatics, rare coins, or simply the thrill of finding hidden value in everyday change. So, let's uncover the story, the value, and the rare errors that make the 1966 Roosevelt dime a coin you don't want to overlook. Let's begin with a bit of history. The Roosevelt dime was first introduced in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who passed away in 1945. His image replaced the Mercury dime, and the coin's debut was timed with the commemoration of his efforts in founding the March of Dimes to fight polio. The dime quickly became one of the most recognizable coins in circulation, with Roosevelt's profile on the obverse and a torch, olive branch, and oak branch symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength on the reverse. Now fast forward to the year 1966. This was a transitional period in American coinage. The Coinage Act of 1965 had just gone into effect. This law eliminated silver from circulating dimes and quarters and drastically reduced silver content in half dollars. From 1965 onward, dimes were struck in a clad composition, a copper core sandwiched between two layers of copper-nickel alloy. That means the 1966 Roosevelt dime contains no silver. However, don't be quick to dismiss it. While it may not contain precious metal, it holds value for several key reasons. Point one of the most interesting things about 1966 dimes is that no mint marks were used during this time. That's right. From 1965 to 1967, all dimes, quarters, and half dollars were struck without mint marks, regardless of where they were minted. This was done to discourage coin hoarding during the coin shortage of the mid-1960s. So whether your 1966 dime was made in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, it carries no identifying mint mark. Now let's talk about mintage and rarity. Over 1.3 billion Roosevelt dimes were minted in 1966. That's a staggering number. Specifically, 1,382,734,540 coins were struck. With such a high mintage, the average 1966 dime you find in circulation today is typically worth its face value, 10 cents. But the story doesn't end there. Certain factors can increase the coin's value dramatically. What makes some 1966 dimes valuable? It all comes down to condition, errors, and grading. Let's break it down. First, condition. Coins that have been well preserved with sharp details, little to no wear, and brilliant luster are highly sought after. These are known as mint state coins and are graded on the Sheldon scale from MS-60 to MS-70. A 1966 Roosevelt dime in average uncirculated condition can fetch between $1 and $5. But if it's graded MS-65 or higher, the value increases significantly. A gem-quality MS-67 dime can be worth $50 to $100 or more depending on demand and market trends. Coins graded MS-68, which is extremely rare, have been auctioned for over $1,000. Next, we talk about proof-like and special mint set strikes. In 1966, instead of issuing traditional proof coins, the U.S. Mint released special mint sets, known as SMS coins. These were struck with more care and sharper detail than regular circulation strikes, often appearing almost proof-like. A high-grade 1966 SMS Roosevelt dime can be worth anywhere between $5 and $50, but the finest examples, especially those with cameo or deep cameo contrast, can bring in well over $200 to $500, with some reaching $1,000 or more in perfect condition. Now comes the most exciting part. Rare errors and varieties. Coin errors are a big deal in the world of collecting, and the 1966 Roosevelt dime has a few famous ones that have caught the eyes of collectors. The first is the double die obverse, also known as DDO. This is when the die that strikes the coin is misaligned or doubled during production, causing noticeable doubling on elements like the date, the word liberty, or the motto "I in God we trust." While extremely rare, a DDO 1966 dime in mint condition could be worth several hundred to thousands of dollars, depending on severity and condition. Another rare and valuable error is the off-center strike, where the coin is not properly aligned in the press. The more dramatic the off-center error, the higher the value, especially if the date is still visible. A 1966 dime with a 50% off-center strike and visible date could sell for $200 to $800, sometimes even more if it's in uncirculated condition. Also keep an eye out for clipped planchet errors, where a portion of the coin is missing due to a flaw in the blanking process. These can fetch $50 to $200 based on severity and appeal. There are also die break. Incredible video. We're diving deep into the fascinating world of the 1987 P. Roosevelt dime coin. You might be surprised to know that this tiny 10-cent piece could actually be worth a lot more than just its face value. That's right. We're talking about the 1987 Roosevelt dime minted in Philadelphia, a coin that many people overlook, but some rare examples of it have been sold for hundreds, even thousands of dollars. So if you've got a jar of old dimes or you're a coin collector, stay tuned because what I'm about to reveal might just make you go and search your pocket change immediately. Let's start with a little bit of history. The Roosevelt dime was first introduced in 1946, following the death of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who had passed away in 1945. Roosevelt was honored for his leadership during the Great Depression and World War II, and he was also deeply connected to the March of Dimes campaign, which sought to find a cure for polio, a disease Roosevelt himself battled. To honor his legacy, the U.S. Mint replaced the winged Liberty Head dime, more commonly known as the Mercury dime, with the Roosevelt design. This new design was created by John R. Sinek, the chief engraver of the U.S. Mint at the time, and it's been in continuous production ever since. Now let's fast forward to 1987. This was a year when the United States Mint produced Roosevelt dimes in large quantities, especially at the Philadelphia Mint, which struck over 1 billion dimes that year. To be exact, the Philadelphia Mint produced 1,030,550,000 dimes in 1987, and they were marked with the P Mint mark on the obverse side, right next to the date. Because of this high mintage, many people assume that all 1987 P dimes are common and not worth more than 10 cents. But the truth is, while most are indeed common, there are rare varieties, special errors, and high-grade examples that are worth significantly more. What makes some of these 1987 P. Roosevelt dimes so valuable? Well, it all comes down to condition, rarity, and errors. Let's first talk about condition. Most dimes from 1987 that have been circulated heavily will only be worth face value. However, if you happen to find a dime in uncirculated condition, especially one that's been graded by a professional coin grading service like PCGS or NGC, you might be holding something special. Coins that grade MS67 or higher can sell for big money. For example, a 1987 P. Roosevelt dime graded MS68 full bands, which refers to the sharply defined horizontal lines on the torch on the reverse side, can be worth hundreds of dollars or more. In fact, the record sale for a 1987 P. Roosevelt dime in MS68 full bands condition was a whopping $646 in a heritage auction. And that's just for one coin. But that's not where the value ends. Let's talk about error coins. Error coins are one of the most exciting parts of numismatics because they are unique and often one of a kind. Some of the rare errors found on 1987 P. Roosevelt dimes include off-center strikes, broad strikes, double dies, and missing clad layers. A double die error means that during the minting process, the die used to stamp the coin shifted slightly between strikes, causing a doubling effect on the design. This can sometimes be seen on the lettering, the date, or other details on the coin. These errors are highly sought after by collectors and can sell for anywhere from $50 to over $500 depending on the severity of the doubling and the overall condition of the coin. Another valuable error is the missing clad layer. Modern Roosevelt dimes are made from a composition of copper and nickel, but sometimes during the minting process, the outer nickel layer doesn't properly bond to the copper core, resulting in a coin that appears reddish or copper-colored. These are known as missing clad layer errors, and video is all about one small but mighty coin, the 1996 P. Roosevelt dime. At first glance, it might look like just another 10-cent piece, but what if I told you that this tiny silver-colored coin could actually be worth hundreds, or even thousands of dollars, depending on the condition and errors it holds. Stick around, because we're diving deep into the full story behind this coin, its fascinating history, rare variations, and its shocking current market value. Let's rewind a bit. The Roosevelt dime was first introduced in 1946, a year after President Franklin Delano Roosevelt's death. He had led the country through the Great Depression and World War II, and he was a driving force behind the March of Dimes campaign to fight polio. To honor his legacy, the U.S. Mint decided to place his portrait on the dime, replacing the winged Liberty head, also known as the Mercury dime. From that moment on, the Roosevelt dime became a circulating tribute to one of America's most influential presidents. Now, fast forward to 1996, a year that marked the 50th anniversary of the Roosevelt dime series. To commemorate this milestone, the U.S. Mint issued a special silver-proof version of the dime minted in West Point with the W Mint mark, available only in special collector's sets. But that's not the one we're focusing on today. Today we're talking about the regular circulation strike from the Philadelphia Mint, the 1996 P. Roosevelt dime, a coin you could have in your change right now and not even know it could be worth a small fortune. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 1.4 billion Roosevelt dimes in 1996. Yes, that's billion with a B. So you might be wondering, what could possibly make one of these coins so valuable? The answer lies in a combination of factors: condition, mint errors, and collector demand. Not all 1996 P dimes are created equal. Let's talk condition first. Most 1996 P dimes that entered circulation have heavy wear and tear. But coins that were never circulated or somehow stayed in pristine condition for decades are graded by professional services like PCGS and NGC. High-grade dimes, especially those graded MS67 or higher, are extremely rare. In fact, a 1996 P. Roosevelt dime graded MS68 full bands, meaning the torch's horizontal lines are fully visible and unbroken, once sold for over $800 at auction. And that's just the beginning. Now let's talk about errors, because that's where the real money is. Some 1996 P dimes were struck with dramatic die errors, off-center strikes, double dies, and even missing clad layers. These minting mistakes can turn an ordinary coin into a collector's dream. For example, a 1996 P dime with a major off-center strike that still shows a full date and mint mark can sell for anywhere from $100 to $500 depending on the severity and eye appeal. Another 1996 P dime missing its outer clad layer, revealing a pure copper core on one or both sides, could bring in up to $250 or more. Double die obverse or reverse examples, where design elements appear doubled, are extremely rare but highly sought after. If you happen to spot strong doubling in the motto "I in God We Trust" or the word Liberty, get that coin checked by a grading service immediately, because it could be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. And don't forget about the strike quality. The term full bands refers to the horizontal lines on the torch on the reverse side of the dime. Most dimes don't have these bands fully struck due to worn dies, but when they do appear, collectors pay a hefty premium. A 1996 P dime graded MS67 with full bands could sell for over $500 at auction. A step higher, and you're potentially looking at over $1,000 for a top-grade example. As of the current coin market in 2025, collectors are increasingly looking for modern coins in superb condition. With inflation and a growing interest in numismatics, even common-looking coins from the 1990s are now being reevaluated. Online auctions on sites like eBay, Heritage Auctions, and Great Collections show strong prices being realized for high-grade and error 1996 P dimes. A recent sale saw a spectacular MS68 specimen with full bands bring in just over $1,250. And remember, this is for a 10-cent coin that many people just toss into a jar without a second thought. How can you find one of these valuable dimes? Start by checking your change jar, piggy bank, or old coin rolls from the bank. Look closely at each 1996 dime and check for the P mint mark just above the date on the obverse. Use a magnifying glass to inspect the torch on the reverse side. Look for clean, clear, unbroken horizontal bands. That's the key. Also look for signs of doubling or unusual surfaces that could indicate a mint error. Once you think you've found something special, don't clean the coin. That could destroy its value. Instead, protect it in a soft holder and consider sending it to a professional grading company like PCGS or NGC. Their certification can add legitimacy and dramatically increase the coin's value to collectors. To sum it all up, the 1996 P. Roosevelt dime might not be made of silver, and it might not be ancient, but it has serious potential to be worth a lot of money in today's market. Whether it's a pristine MS-68, a dramatic mint error, or a dime with the coveted full bands designation, this little coin is a hidden gem in modern U.S. coinage. We're diving deep into the world of dimes, but not just any dime. We're talking about the 2007 P. Roosevelt one dime coin from the United States. At first glance, it may look like just another small coin in your change jar, but this tiny piece of metal could be hiding a secret that's worth a lot more than 10 cents. In fact, some rare examples of this coin have been sold for hundreds and even thousands of dollars due to specific mint errors, conditions, and unique characteristics that only a few know about. So sit back, relax, and let's uncover the fascinating story, history, hidden value, and current market prices of the 2007 P. Roosevelt dime. You might just find out that you've been holding on to a miniature fortune in your pocket. Let's get started. First, let's go back in time for a brief look at the legacy of the Roosevelt dime. The Roosevelt dime was first introduced in 1946, right after the passing of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. Roosevelt was not only a beloved leader, but also instrumental in founding the March of Dimes, a campaign to fight polio. To honor his legacy, the U.S. Mint decided to feature his profile on the new 10-cent coin, replacing the previous Mercury dime design. Since then, the Roosevelt dime has remained a staple of American currency, symbolizing strength, determination, and national progress. Now let's fast forward to 2007, the year this dime was minted at the Philadelphia Mint. The P mint mark on the coin indicates it was struck in Philadelphia. In that year alone, over 1.4 billion Roosevelt dimes were minted with the P mark. That's right, more than 1 billion coins were made, making it a very common coin in everyday circulation. But here's the twist. Even among billions, there are always a few that stand out. And it's those rare examples that collectors are searching high and low for today. So what makes a 2007 P. Roosevelt dime special? It all comes down to a few key factors: mint errors, coin grade, luster, strike quality, and overall condition. Let's break these down one by one. Number 1. Mint errors. Now this is where things get really interesting. Some 2007 P. Roosevelt dimes were struck with dramatic minting mistakes that make them incredibly rare and valuable. One of the most sought-after errors is the off-center strike. These are dimes that were not properly aligned during minting, resulting in a coin where the design is shifted, missing part of the legend or Roosevelt's head. Depending on how far off-center the strike is, the coin could be worth anywhere from $50 to over $1,000. Another valuable mint error is the double die obverse, or DDO. This is when the design on the front of the coin appears to be doubled due to a misalignment in the die. In a 2007 P dime, a strong DDO can show doubling in the words "Liberty," "In God We Trust," or even Roosevelt's facial features. These can command prices in the hundreds of dollars when authenticated by coin grading services. Then there are planchet errors, where the dime is struck on the wrong metal or an incomplete blank. Imagine finding a dime struck on a penny planchet. That's a major error, and collectors will pay thousands for such a find. Number 2. Coin grade and condition. Most coins we handle every day get scratched, nicked, and worn over time. But when a 2007 P. Roosevelt dime is found in mint state condition, especially graded MS-67, MS-68, or higher by PCGS or NGC, its value skyrockets. At these grades, the coin has almost no contact marks and retains its full original luster, as if it were just struck yesterday. Even though the coin is common, a high-grade 2007 P. Roosevelt dime can be worth between $100 and $500 or more, depending on demand and rarity. Number 3. Full torch strike, or FT designation. This is given when the torch on the reverse of the coin shows full separation of the horizontal and vertical lines, which is a sign of a very strong strike from fresh dies. Collectors highly value the FT designation and it adds a premium to the coin's price. A 2007 P. Roosevelt dime in MS68 FT can fetch up to $750 or more at auction. Now let's talk about some real sales and recent market value. In recent years, a few outstanding 2007 P. Roosevelt dimes have made headlines in the coin collecting world. A spectacular example, graded MS68 full torch by PCGS, sold for over $800. Another error coin with a 30% off-center strike sold for $1,200 in a major coin auction. And a rare double die specimen authenticated by NGC fetched nearly $650. Now, here's something every viewer should know. Check your change. That's right. You never know what's sitting in your pocket, drawer, or coin jar. Because of how common this coin is, it's easy to overlook. But if you take a few minutes to inspect your 2007 dimes carefully, especially those with the Philadelphia Mint mark, you might discover something extraordinary. Use a magnifying glass or a loupe and look closely at the lettering, Roosevelt's eye, and the torch. Look for signs of doubling, misalignment, missing details, or full strike clarity. And if you think you've found something rare, the best step is to get the coin authenticated and graded. Use trusted grading companies like PCGS or NGC. A small investment in certification could lead to a big return if your coin is truly a hidden gem.so. To wrap it up, while the 2007 P. Roosevelt dime might not be rare in general mintage numbers, rare examples with error varieties or perfect condition are highly sought after and can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. It's a great reminder that treasure doesn't always come in big sizes. Sometimes it's as small as a dime. We are diving deep into the world of modern-day rare coins with a spotlight on the 2014 D. Roosevelt dime. At first glance, it may look like just another 10-cent piece in your pocket, but some of these seemingly ordinary coins are worth far more than 10 cents. In fact, some collectors are paying hundreds, even thousands of dollars for specific varieties of the 2014 D. Roosevelt dime. So buckle up and stay with us as we explore the coin's history, hidden value, and current market demand that could turn your spare change into a small fortune. Let's begin by going back to the origin of the Roosevelt dime. This iconic coin series was first introduced in 1946, just after the death of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Designed by John R. Sinek, the coin was meant to honor Roosevelt's leadership through the Great Depression and World War II, as well as his tireless efforts in the fight against polio. It replaced the Mercury dime and has remained in circulation ever since. The obverse features a left-facing portrait of Roosevelt, while the reverse shows a torch symbolizing liberty flanked by olive and oak branches representing peace and strength. Fast forward to the year 2014. The Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of Roosevelt dimes that year, making the 2014 D coin a common one in general circulation. But here's where the story gets interesting. Not all of these coins are created equal. Among the massive mintage, a small number of these dimes were struck with high quality and precision, earning them high grades by coin grading agencies like PCGS and NGC. And that's just the beginning. The 2014 D. Roosevelt dime has become a hot target for collectors who are hunting down high-grade examples, coins with mint errors, or unique varieties that slipped through quality control. Coins graded MS67 and higher with full torch or full bands details are extremely rare and command a premium in the market. If your coin shows crisp lines on the torch and sharply defined horizontal bands, you may be looking at a coin worth hundreds of dollars or more. Now let's talk about errors and varieties. Some 2014 D. Roosevelt dimes are known to exhibit striking anomalies like off-center strikes, broad strikes, die clashes, or double dies. These errors increase the value of a coin dramatically depending on severity and condition. One of the most sought-after error types is the double die obverse or reverse, where you might see doubling in the letters of Liberty or In God We Trust. These coins can fetch anywhere from $50 to several $100, depending on the visibility of the error and the coin's overall preservation. There are also examples of the 2014 D dime with die chips or cuds, small raised areas, or blobs where part of the die broke off during production. These minor errors may not make national headlines, but collectors love them and will pay a premium for unusual flaws. Some collectors even specialize in these so-called die-break varieties and are constantly searching through rolls of coins to find new ones. Now, let's move to the current market value. In circulated condition, the 2014 D. Roosevelt dime is worth its face value of 10 cents. However, uncirculated examples in brilliant condition are selling for more. Coins graded MS-65 by PCGS or NGC usually sell for between $5 and $15. Move up to MS-66, and you could be looking at values of $20 to $50. In MS-67, the price jumps even higher, often exceeding $100, especially if it exhibits full torch characteristics. But the real excitement is in the top population coins. A few specimens of the 2014 D. Roosevelt dime graded MS-68 with full torch have sold for over $250 at auction. These coins are virtually flawless under magnification and represent the highest quality known for that date and mint mark. With very few existing in this grade, demand is high and prices continue to rise. Another area of the market worth mentioning